Yes, the inner orientation of a person. Because it is this inner orientation which will turn a hater into a lover and a lover into a hater. It's this inner orientation which will turn a conditioned soul into a happy, free, dancing child of eternity, or this inner orientation which will turn a devotee into a criminal. It is the inner orientation which is more important because it is, so to say, the landman of a person's life. It's where he will go. Now, in the practice of chanting Hare Krishna, this inner orientation is most probably the most important thing. You know, if some of you have the inner orientation, oh my God, this Japa retreat, you know, I said all the nice things in public, but I really counted the day. When is it over? When is the last day? When can I again read the newspapers and and do what I want? And you will see that inner orientation will carry that person. Whereas someone here might think, oh, I really got some impetus here. I could see what is possible. My goal is really to make my life in such a way that I can, when I leave from here, repeat the experience at home. This inner, anyone can show for some time any picture to the outside world, but it is ultimately the inner orientation which will decide what his next steps will be. So, in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, I have discovered that this inner orientation, or as we say in ISKCON, the right mood, will decide what is the success or failure of a devotee in his life. I remember when I was a young man and I visited Srila Prabhupada in his room in Paris. I opened the door of his room and there was no one in the room. And I turned around to the servant, went a flight of stairs downstairs, and said, "You told me Prabhupada is there and I could give him his present, but the room is empty." He said, it can't be empty. He must be up there. So again, when it was a little flight of stairs, only this broad, I went up again into the room and again looked in the room, and the room was empty. Coming from a family of warlords, I went to the floor and thought maybe he's hiding under the bed for some reason. But he was not there. Again, and this time with a protestful mind, I said, "I think you don't want me to meet Prabhupada. The room is empty. There is no one there." Now, he got angry at me and said, "Baba, get up and look. You have tomatoes on your eyes." I still remember this interesting definition of blindness. So I went up again. And this time I found Prabhupada. He was in the shade of the door. Let me say, this is the room where you are. Here's the door. And the shade of the door is this part. So I'm coming in here. And I'm looking in the room and no one is there. So this time I went a little bit. Then went in the room, turned around, and I saw him hiding behind the door, the shade of the door. And he sat there in his in his rocking chair, and you should have seen him. He was chanting, so absorbed, and in my own eyes I could see something like a halo around him, a light, and he was so absorbed and so with Krishna as he chanted that I just stood there, and even I could understand this is not a moment to disturb. So I sneaked out of the room, waited for half an hour, and then asked the servant, "Can you go first? The guy's found him." And I don't want to disturb. So then eventually I got to give my present. Prabhupada was sitting there. He was chanting, and there was light, the light which is there when Krishna enters the heart around him, and a very good tears were also there. His inner orientation. I always ask, what is his inner orientation? What is he thinking? How is he directed? What is motivating him? And later I found something in Prabhupada's own words about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which describes a little bit that inner orientation, which makes you into a devotee if you have it. Prabhupada said, it's a morning walk, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is a sannyasi. He has no more necessity. But why is he crying for Govinda? He has given up the whole world, became a sannyasi, and now why is he crying for Govinda? That is real necessity. Govinda vinahena me. Govinda necessity. The necessity is Govinda, and he's never alone. There is again life, again Vrindavan, again the gopis, again dancing, again eating, again everything. That is the real necessity. My dear devotees, this is an inner orientation which will carry you back to Godhead. You need to understand what is your need, what you need, what is necessary for you, what is your necessity. This is very important. When you have this understanding of what is your need, your real need, which informs and cures all the other little desires which we have, then you have the right inner orientation. Then you have the wings which make you fly in the sky of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise you're a bird with tomatoes in the eyes and a rock on your foot. This need is important to understand. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wrote once a poem about inner orientation, which is just so absolutely poetic and absolutely nice that I want to recite it to you. But because it's so poetic, and I'm only mediocre poetic, I have put it aside in easy thought bites. The yogi of my mind is the poem. It's Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes his mind to be one of these yogis who beg for their subsistence. And he says, my mind is like a beggar. It wants it wants Krishna so much. And he describes
this mental attitude. The yogi of my mind wears a quilt means blanket, of anxiety.
His only words are Allah